And I was thinking it's kind of like you're looking at this field. We're all looking at this field of like dreams. And when you start, you're like, oh, I'm gonna run across the field and I'm gonna get all the dreams I want. I'm gonna get the baby. I'm gonna get the job. I'm gonna fall in love. I'm gonna do all these things. But the second you start that journey, it's an invisible mountain ahead of you. And you can't see the mountain. Nobody else can see the mountain. And you just feel it. And you can't put it into words for someone else. You can't make it tangible or visible. And it's almost like no one believes you when you share about the mountain because they can't see it. And then also on top of it, every woman has a different mountain to climb. You know, there's such a hierarchy of things that society has put on us depending on where we're born, what country we're born into, the color of our skin, the way we look, how thin we are. I mean, like it's such a different mountain of problems that every woman has that it's hard for us to connect and understand what each other are going through. And then we tend to kind of judge each other. And I feel like women should never judge how other women live or are liberating themselves. So whatever we have to do to make ourselves happy and to be successful in life, that's what we have to do. And I feel like women also sacrifice a lot. We exchange so many parts of ourselves to get where we need to go. We sacrifice our soul, we sacrifice our bodies, you know, we sacrifice our peace to keep the peace, you know, and I think a lot of times also in social media, you don't notice people are going through so much because it makes it seem shiny and beautiful and happy. And we're really good at doing that as women because we've been taught to, you know, cover our pain with a smile because we don't want to burden anybody else or bother anybody else. And I think if we opened up more and we shared all those struggles and it wasn't so uncomfortable, I think we could really be powerful. And, you know, we talk about women supporting women a lot. But like actually doing that, what does that mean to do that? Does it mean checking on your friend? Does it mean helping with kids? Does it mean hiring a woman, collabing with a woman? You know, whatever we have to do to support each other, I think we have to make those conscious efforts. So when we leave today, that's kind of my call to action to everybody is to do something whenever you can to support another woman, whatever that means. So I intentionally brought these 5 women here today. They all represent a big part of my life that I wish I had had access to that knowledge at that time. So I'm gonna introduce them in a minute, but first I'm gonna go through, I'm gonna look at my notes that I made. Thank you. Well, I'm moving my house and I'm doing all this other stuff this week, like, you know, trying to get a divorce. So it's like, I was like, do I just talk or do I make notes with my 30 minutes of free time after my kids finally go to bed at 11 p.m.? And I'm like, get in bed, I'm busy. So, okay. Well, I was gonna go through some big issues that we all face, and I feel like I actually Googled it, because I was like, what are the issues that we face? Because I had my own list. I mean, the list just kept going on and on and on and on and on down the page. I was like, I don't have time to read all of those. So I'm just gonna pick the ones that I feel like I have personally struggled with. And I'm really open about myself. I don't know if anybody follows on Instagram, but I'm really open about any struggles I've had with eating disorders, with my marriage, with, you know, valuing myself through the way men see me, you know, all of that kind of stuff. Like women trying to stay young and beautiful and thin and all of that, it's like exhausting. So I feel like unattainable beauty standards is a huge thing that we face as women. From the time you're a young girl, you know, you see like the cover of a magazine and that is all you think about, and how you can be beautiful for a man to choose you, which is exhausting in and of itself. Then healthcare, reproductive rights, birth control, fertility. I think, you know, we're handed a birth control right out of the gates because we're also taught to please men, have sex with men, not even think about what pleases us. And we immediately start taking medicine, even though women can only get pregnant 6 days a month and men can get someone pregnant 365 days a year. And for some reason, the entire responsibility falls on us, which is bullshit and pisses me off. There's not enough research on any of the women's stuff anyway, like what birth control does to our bodies. Menopause, which we should all be excited to go into because we get to pause from men for a minute. Endometriosis, all of that, you know, and they study erectile dysfunction all day, and it's like, you don't need any more. Domestic abuse, rape, murder, we all face. I mean, every time you go on a date, I feel like you're putting your life in danger. You know, who you choose as a partner, they can ruin your health if you don't choose the right one. They could kill you. Every 12 minutes, a woman dies in the world, and it's usually at the hands of a man that she knew, ex or current partner. Yeah, so I feel like knowledge is power, so the more we know about these things, the more important it is. And now I'm going to introduce the women, and we're going to talk about lots of these topics. First, we have Gigi Jones, AKA...
I'm going to clap for myself, too.
AKA Gigi the Vegan. And I was lucky enough to walk into her shop, and now I religiously take sea moss, mango sea moss, which we're going to learn all about too. She is a certified raw food chef, dietitian, and founder of Gigi's Vegan and Wellness Cafe. She healed herself from colon cancer and now empowers her community through plant-based living, food justice, and accessible wellness education. And she's incredible. I've come into her shop before, and she's got lots of young women around learning from her and teaching, and that's something you can really do to support women, is teach them. Do you want to say a little bit about yourself?
I think you said it all.
Did I get it? Okay, good.
I think she said it all. Actually, also I'd like to mention I'm the president of a nonprofit organization as well called KC Health Initiative, where we have host educational events throughout Kansas City. And we organize one of the largest veg fests in the Midwest called Midwest Soul Veg Fest. It happens every October. And we also organize a women's retreat in November as well, where we teach food as medicine. Through our nonprofit, we go into communities and we feed families nutritious foods that can't afford it. We also go into schools and teach kids about nutrition and how to grow food and the importance of that and how the sun activates the food and make it nutritious for the body.
I love that. Okay, next is Julia Harkleroad, she spoke at our last event, and she's just kind of a powerhouse in general. She's a clinically licensed marriage and family therapist and has been published in Family Therapy magazine. Julia is an advocate for equality and advancement in mental health care. So she's kind of important to me because in my 20s, I had terrible mental health, probably due to just, society in general, but also eating issues, substance abuse. I took meds for 10 years and it saved my life. So I know we talk about a lot about that. And yes, and she's a big advocate for medicine, and I love that about her. Do you want to say anything else?
Nope.
Okay. And then we have Julianna Glasse, who flew in for this event. We really appreciate that you came for this. Thank you. She's a dynamic thought leader and the founder and CEO of This Is What Happens When Women Read, a global initiative advancing women's liberation through literature, education, and safe community. And she's also a big LGBTQ activist, which I really love and appreciate that. Do you want to say anything else right now?
Nope.
Okay. And then we have Paige Fowler, who I wish I had known 20 years ago when I got married so I could manage my money better. But that's okay, we know her now. Paige Fowler is a financial advisor of 20 years who helps individuals and families build long-term goal-based plans for creating and protecting generational wealth. And hopefully you're gonna help me soon.
I'm here.
Do you have anything else to say?
The only thing I would share that's not in my bio is I came to financial planning. I think this might be relevant for the group. I was married to a financial advisor. He ran his own financial planning firm. I was the dutiful wife who did the recruiting dinners and talked to the other wives and got them on board. And I knew nothing about money. My background is psychology. And as soon as I divorced, I got licensed. And called him when I called him from Capitol Grill when it was on the plaza, popping champagne, because I had passed all my licenses. And he was happy for me because he always said that I should be in this. So it is, you've got to start somewhere, right?
Yes, you really do. I think most women don't, not most women, I think some women just don't have enough financial freedom to make the decisions we need to make. Do you know what I mean? I think I would have made a lot of decisions differently had I had financial power, not just in my marriage, but before my marriage, like who you marry. I think a lot of women will get married to someone because they don't have access to making money because we have to be waitresses or teachers or nannies, and we don't have access to higher paying jobs. So then we won't marry for money, but maybe you will marry a different person than you may have married because they can support you differently. And it's like, if you're young and you don't know what to do, you're like, okay, here we go. and then you don't work because maybe you had kids and you stay home and then you're out of the workforce. And I think a lot of women tend to feel trapped and they don't even know how to manage money if they have access to money. I personally had no access to bank accounts my entire marriage. So, I mean, that's probably, I would used to say that was my fault, but I think I asked multiple times and it was a no. So, you know, you just say thank you and you're grateful for what you have and you keep going. And also I think you're like, well, I'm not being physically abused, or I'm not this, and this person has it worse. And, you know, so I should be grateful. What am I even complaining about? Like, and so there's different levels of, you know, things in marriage like that, that you're not sure if you should even question or not, because that's kind of how it's done. And that's how everyone else does it. And what are you complaining about? So, you know, and you get a lot of the, well, you're not in Afghanistan, at least you can go out and get groceries on your own. And you're like, what doesn't matter? I like some access to bank accounts. And so also just to know how to manage money and budget. And I think women are really great with money. That's another thing.
They are.
I think it's a big trick that we've been told that men are really great at managing money, but women aren't, because we're all really smart and we can multitask and we can manage and run things like nobody's business. And I think we should start believing in ourselves more in that. So my mom managed all the money at my house, thank God. All right, next up is Alisha Saucedo. I got it. A clinically licensed somatic and relationship therapist joining us to support healing, empowerment, and full spectrum liberation. She will be leading us in an abbreviated breathwork experience after this. So she teaches healing through movement and breathwork. I wish I had known her sooner, because I think after you go through trauma, like my dad passed away when I was 17, I think I dove into substances and men, you know, because you don't really deal with the trauma. But I think if you have someone like her to help you work through it, you don't have to go down self-destructive paths. So I think that's really important for women. Do you have anything else to say, to add?
Just that I'm showing up in all my vulnerability today because I am nervous AF. But, I mean, thank you. That's my friend. But I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Yes, and I'm sure we're all a little nervous. I mean, oh God, Julie, God, I'm scared. I've done that before. Okay.
Your little helmet.
No. It's okay. Now I know it's there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're all a little nervous too. I'm personally not a public speaker. I just, you know, rage on Instagram all the time. But, you know, I'm doing it through my words so I can like correct what I'm saying and think about if that sounds right, or if I'm going to offend somebody. But in real life, I'm quite raw and will probably offend if the wrong person's in the room. So I'm going to dive into questions with the ladies. And any of them can answer too. Like I have questions directed for each one of them specifically, but we can add on, and then you guys can ask questions after we're done, or you can even interrupt in the middle and ask a question. I don't, you know, if there's something that we hear and you guys are like, but what about this? Raise your hand. We should keep it real casual. I am going to start, and then try to project, ladies, as much as possible with your voices. Do your best. I'm going to start with Gigi. Do you want to start?
Oh, sure.
Okay. Because honestly, I didn't know a lot about nutrition when I was younger. I grew up in Independence, and we were like fed mac and cheese and like Pringles, and I didn't realize how little nutrition I was actually getting, which probably affected my mental health in ways I couldn't comprehend. So it wasn't until my late 20s I started juicing, and I started getting like a better grasp on nutrition. And I think we're not really educated in that in America, and we just kind of eat whatever. So what is your most valuable piece of advice when it comes to food and how it affects your mental and physical health?
I like that. Thanks for that question.
Okay.
I think for me, the most valuable food is kale. Kale is a superfood. Even if you juice it, you eat it. We grow a lot of kale at Gigi's Vegan and Wellness Cafe. We also have a garden there where we grow the majority of the food that we serve in the kale wraps, as you can see. So of course, you know it's kale, right? You just say kale wraps. So, but I think because it's the mother of all greens and the most important substance that you can eat at its rawest form. Because when you cook different foods, and especially green leafy greens, you cook all of the nutrients out of it. So it's very, very important to try to consume it like it is. And a lot of people say, well, Gigi, kale is so bitter. But if you take 2 minutes I know that's a long time. How about 60 seconds? And massage it. Just massage it, putting all of your good energy into that kale. It breaks it down. Then she turns sweet. Did you notice the difference between the kale that you ate today? It's a little sweet. It's not as bitter. And so, and it's packed not just with vitamins and minerals, but also protein as well. And then if you want glowing skin and all of that, kale, is that the answer to you?
I think that's great. Kale.
One thing, I would just go with kale. I can go with several others.
Okay, I've got a question for you.
Make it simple.
What's one thing you would add or cut out of your diet? Like that everyone should be like, never eat that again. And this is something you should always eat. We kind of said kale, but I think sea moss.
Oh, y'all already know what I would say. Meat, right? Meat. Come on. Especially right now with the hormones that are put into, our animal, protein that they call it. Right now, when you look at all of these different injections that goes into the animals, that goes directly into us. It goes directly into your body. It doesn't kill off. Also, when you purchase the, chicken or whatever it is you're eating, pork, however way, pork has the highest rate of worms in it that we eat. We try to cook them out, but usually we don't. They end up on our counter or wherever they are. But I just like to suggest to people, even if you do a reset, if you say, well, I'm so addicted to it, because you are, I was, we all are, because of what they put in our food, that's what makes it so addicting. But how do you overcome that and say, okay, today I'm going to make better choices. I'm not going to eat as much meat, but I'm going to eat just a little bit. And the rest is vegetables and green leafy greens. I think that, because I know from my experience that it poisoned my body because I consumed quite a bit of it. But if you decide, it's your choice, we have that choice and we're grateful for that, go to a farmer where he's growing it. And then you're good, right? But in the grocery store, we're not.
Yeah, it's also better for the
deadly.
planet.
Yeah, of course, 110%. Cause no harm. That's my message to myself. And my affirmation every day is to cause no harm to myself, to my feather, woman, man, animal, all of it, cause no harm to this beautiful world that we have an opportunity to share and love and create. And we create love. Thanks.
You, Gigi. Yeah, and I feel like food is quite political. I think we are fed a lot of things that we don't even know what's in it, and we don't know how it affects us in our bodies, particularly women with our hormones. So I think the more educated you are about it, the better. Like, yes, everyone wants to cut out meat, but honestly, a few times a week, I feel like makes a huge difference in your body and for the planet. So just the amount of food it takes to feed all those animals is like a huge weight on, global warming and everything. So not to stress everyone out. Okay, I'm gonna do some questions for Julia. This is supposed to make us feel better.
I don't know about that. My answers might not make you feel better.
Okay, we just be open and raw. Julia, can you talk about the feeling of shame around staying in relationships that are failing? As someone who's stuck around in my relationship longer than I would have liked to, I think you worry about what your family and your friends are going to think. You worry about if you have stepchildren, you worry about your children. And I think there's a lot of people that maybe feel that. So I would love to hear from you.
I think many women think that, they're the only one that has shame for the relationship that they're in, but this is something that we all share, and for a variety of reasons. And ideally, what we're looking for is to find secure attachment in our relationships. And that starts with yourself and being securely attached within yourself, right? Finding security within yourself, which takes self-awareness, which takes understanding your own defense mechanisms. And so I think when we ask the question, like, what are some of the things that keep people, women, in relationships that they feel ashamed of or that they feel like they can't get out of, it's a lack of support that we feel outside of a marriage too. So until we have, something else to catch us, empower us, support us, it's really hard to exit without that. And that a lot of times can be women helping other women, right? And so something that we do have the tendency to do is judge one another for our decisions and choices, and for leaving a marriage or staying in a marriage. And we've all got advice for one another, and I think the most important thing that we can do is just step back and look at what's in front of you, and look what your friend, your mom, your sister, your aunt, whatever is telling you about the experience that they're going through, and what they're telling you that they need. And so shame comes from judgment, right? And so if we remove judgment and we accept unconditionally, there's a lot of strength and healing that can come from that. That's my very short and 2-minute.
And to believe women when they tell you something. I think a lot of time, it's not just men that don't believe us. I actually find it to be more that women don't believe what we say when we say we're struggling, or you reach out to someone, or you say your partner's doing something. I think women tend to not be believed. So then if you're not believed, then you're like, well, maybe it's not even happening. You kind of second guess yourself a little. And then you end up, yeah.
And what I'll say about that too is a lot of times we gaslight one another and we don't mean to. So when you say things like, oh, it's going to be all right, it'll be fine, that's a version of gaslighting, right? And we don't mean harm by that, but what you're doing is shutting the other person down. And a lot of times that happens because you yourself don't have stress tolerance within yourself. So as a friend, it's hard for you to sit there and hear that the person across from you is having a hard time, that they're in distress. And so you can't really fully show up for them because you're concerned about yourself. You're in fight or flight because it's hard to hear what they have to say. And so I think if you can learn, one of the things you can also do to help other women out is learn how to regulate your own emotions, right? Learn how to steady yourself, because you can show up for other people so much better when you have self-regulation. So.
Yeah, like I don't like the term, like when you share, like you're having a hard time and someone says, oh, you'll figure it out. You're like, I'm not gonna figure it out, but actually I will, but I would prefer you to not say that to me, because that kind of diminishes the struggle that people are going through. And I think, like I said, women tend to show up with a smile, so people don't quite understand the struggle that they're going through on many different levels. I also think we should make it more so we don't have to show up with a smile. Maybe we just show how we're feeling. And if we're mad, we're mad. And if we're sad, we're sad. And we should, not make it the regular thing to always be smiling and say, we're good. Like, I think that it's good to just be authentic in who you are. And I think we're scared to bring people down. But what I really think it does is brings people up. It empowers other women to see your emotions and to see that you're having a hard time and we're mad about it or we're sad about it. So I think not masking your emotions.
They can handle that though. When you're sometimes consistent and you have a bad day, it's really hard for others to handle that.
Yeah, totally.
And it's like, how do you help get them there?
I think I read somewhere that authenticity is an act of generosity, and I love that.
Friend who's toxically positive. I cannot. No, I mean, seriously, this is shit. Just admit it. So I haven't seen her for a while. Like, she just does. It upsets me that we have to pretend everything's okay.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just had to say.
I would love to, can I add? So 2 thoughts that might be helpful in considering shame is that shame doesn't metabolize itself into something else. It's not like, oh, I feel ashamed, and then it's going to become, oh, I'm confident now. Shame is only received by shame itself. So when someone is shaming you, it's because they themselves feel shame. And so in that respect, you can look at it almost like a ball. So if you were to come up to me and say something shameful to me, like, how dare you, whatever, I'd be like, oh, like, that's yours, like, that's your shame. And so in that respect, it's not even your own responsibility. It's the responsibility of the one shaming for them to heal their own, if that makes sense. That's helpful for me. And And then I would also love to address what you're talking about, vulnerability, which I think is another word that society uses to like require a woman to fillet herself in front of. And the reality is that we all have different containers. I like to think of, like, if this is my container, then I can hold this much water. But if this is your container, you can't hold this much. And it actually would be, it wouldn't be a kindness for me to pour my whole self into you. And so in that respect, when you're engaging with someone who is limited or their container is the size of a shot glass, like it's not kind to them, it's not kind to yourself to pour that much out into them because they won't be able to manage it. They won't be able to hold it. And so I think as women, we can reabsorb our agency here, right? Like I am in full control of what I offer you. And it's my kindness of being aware how much you can hold, right? And that might not be all of me. In fact, there are very, very few, I'm looking at like 2 in my life that can basically hold the essence of who I am. But that's not reserved for everyone. So I would just, be mindful that you are your own agent, you are autonomous. You might have a really giant container, but not everyone does.
No, and I yes. And like some days, yes, you wake up and it's going to be insane and you just may have to regulate yourself for the day and not have to call people and ask for help. And you have to be able to keep going and find strength in yourself. And I do think I think the older you get and the more you practice self-love and the more you practice regulating your own emotions, you can do that. So you don't have to dump it out. But I like that answer. Okay, Julia or anyone, what do attachments and relationships look like?
So this is a quick 2-minute definition here, but when you think of attachment, it starts, so let me back up for a second. Attachment really begins in the womb. We know this, yes? And your attachment style comes from that relationship. It begins there, right? So you have an infant who doesn't know that it's separate than you. Infants believe that they are you, right? And you are them. And over the course of development, they begin to learn that they have agency, that they're a separate being from you, right? And that can either be a liberating process and an empowering process, or it can be terrifying, right? Or it can be a mix of both. And then you sort of speed ahead, and let's say attachment now begins in friendships or even siblings. Siblings are actually one of the first places that we practice attachment style. And so, in my own home, my brother is a total introvert. And so the feedback that he gave, I'm an extrovert, that he gave me was mismatched for what I needed, right? And so we don't talk about siblings enough, and the way that they affect our attachment style, but they're a huge part of our own psyche and how we see ourselves and our own identity, right? And then it branches out to friends, and then it branches out to romance, right? And partnership. And, sort of the typical way in the psychology world of thinking of attachment is securely attached or insecurely attached. And I'm going to just tell you right now, the majority of the world is insecurely attached, and that's not a forever thing. It's not a label you put on yourself and just say, I'm screwed for life because I'm insecurely attached, right? It's something that can be massaged and worked on and healed. And that is what we are here for, is want to show up for one another and help each other repair and find security. And, when you break insecure attachment down, typically you would break it down into avoidant or anxiously attached, right? And that's typically when I'm working with someone either in a couple or dissolving from a relationship, I'm looking at typically someone that's avoidant and someone that's anxious and why that isn't working, And the beautiful thing is that's repairable as long as both people are able and willing to work on it. And the last thing I'll say about this is that we tend to think, and this is true for me, after I broke up with my very first boyfriend, thought he was the love of my life, right? Very infatuated, who, by the way, I saw a couple of weeks ago at my 20th college reunion, which was a very interesting experience. But I was very insecurely attached with him. And, I kind of thought after that breakup, I'm never dating again because this is so threatening. Like, look how I came undone. I became a different person in that relationship. I'm never doing that again. And then I was like celibate for 3 years. Okay. Very unhealthy, because frankly, the only way that we're going to get to security ultimately is to practice, like everything else. And so the answer is not to avoid, in this case, men, for me, to avoid men or avoid dating. It's to find that inner security and learn how to gauge that in the other person, develop that in the other person. What I'm looking for is a partner that is willing and able and ready to do the work that it takes to create security together, right? So, but we all need that. We're all relationally wired, right? Like, nobody is meant to live off in isolation somewhere. And you might be secure when you're living off on your own, but guess what's going to creep back in as soon as you fall in love again or have a friend, because attachment is in friendship too, right? So it is a skill that we need to take, as Julianna was saying, take responsibility for, take agency for, and work on ourselves to increase our own sense of security and take that knowledge out into the dating world, out into our friendships, and help heal one another through it.
Oh, I love that. Yes, that's so true. That's really good. And I do feel like, yes, sometimes women are like, oh, I'm never dating again. I'm getting a divorce. I'm never getting remarried. But I feel like each of those experiences you have with another person, friendships included, it's all a learning experience. You're learning about yourself. You're growing. You're getting better at relationships. You're teaching other people something. So I think, yes, the answer is not to be like, oh, I'm never dating again, because dating can be really fun. Even if you don't like them, it can still be fun. But, and like, you know, I just think it's all an educational experience. So go get that free dinner and go enjoy yourself, unless they ask you a stupid question and then you have to get up and get out of there. But yes, that's how we feel about it. Okay, Julia, your last question. How do we hone healthy relationships? Or do you think you kind of...
I kind of answered that. I mean, I feel like, you know, when you don't have anyone in your life to practice secure relationship with, go find a therapist, right? Like, you need that if nothing else, therapy is for that, to learn how to securely attach. And, you know, Alisha will attest to this as well. I mean, that's mainly what we're there for, yes, is to be that secure attachment for you. And it's an honor, and we take it seriously, at least those of us who care about our patients and ourselves. So it's that, and you know, and learn more about, I'm going to do a webinar in the fall on defense mechanisms. That's really where I'm going to be talking about attachment in that. And so it's like learning skills like that, gaining knowledge, reading about that, right? Like informing yourself, and then finding people to practice with is the only way that's really going to change.
And I love what you said about healing yourself, because when you go into a relationship full of self-love and a fully formed human, you experience that relationship much differently. Like 45-year-old Amy is so different in a relationship or dating than 25-year-old Amy was. You know, 25-year-old Amy didn't really like herself. You know, she wanted validation. She changed her personality for a man, you know, and as a full person, you can just add toppings to another person's ice cream because you're already your ice cream cup. And I think that's like the whole point, is that we're like already fully in love with ourselves basically, and we can regulate ourselves, and then we can go into a healthy relationship. Then the real hard thing is finding a man that's done all the work too, you know, and knowing what that looks like when you meet them. So that's kind of a tricky part.
Or is willing to do that work with you.
Willing to do it.
He may enter and not be there, but if he's willing to do it.
I also think we attract people when we become.
We attract what
so we start
really
to bring
are.
people into our lives, that friends, romantic relationships.
100. Who I attracted at 25 was also very toxic because, you know, I was so, you know, dysregulated. And who I attract now are like men that have been to therapy. You know, you get what you are.
My mom used to tell me, Paige, you like men who like women. So I was because I needed value from men. So I was attracting men who would validate women. And it wasn't just me. It was every other woman they ran across as well. So then it got into infidelity and things like that. So.
Can I just hop in here?
Yeah,
too?
please.
When Julia was talking about taking the chance to get out and create attachments or put yourself out there. It goes back to what Julianna was saying about the capacity of the container. Like, in order for you to grow your capacity, you have to actually be willing to get out there and flip and try. And what we tolerate isn't the same as having capacity for something. So Amy's cup, her ice cream cup, is going to be more full once she's done the work, taking the chances, and it's going to continue to grow each time, instead of just saying, oh, I'm only going to step a little toe out and then I'm just going to go back into my hole. So we have to notice what feels uncomfortable each time we take that chance, be willing to be with it, work through it, and then we'll have an even bigger ice cream cup later. I just wanted to say that to start with.
No, and I love, and as women get older, our ice cream cup gets more full of ice cream. So it's like when I see men who specifically just want to go out and date young girls, it's because their cup's empty. So they're going to date girls who are not even fully formed yet because they're easy to impress. And I find it to be, when I see that quite often in our society, it's because women don't really have access to, like I said, certain things, money, you know, education, all this. So we tend to marry this older guy or date older men who tend to take advantage of young girls and their lack of knowledge and their lack of ice cream in their cup, because they're going to put more ice cream in their cup. So I think women also, we've been told that we are aging out, you know, we expire, we're going to go to menopause, and then it's all over for us, and then we have no value to society anymore because our looks are gone and this and that. And I just think that's absolutely not true. You okay? Yes. Okay. I just think that's not true. I think that's bullshit. I think the older we get, the better we get. And I think men who are really good men understand that, and they look for women their own age, and they want to date that. And they want to date women, you know, not girls. So I'm excited for menopause. No, I'm not.
No, actually, it's great. No, it is. Because suddenly you don't care what anybody else thinks about anything.
Right? It's the
And I'm 65. I was so happy to turn 65. I don't know why. I guess I have a weird thing with age, but I feel like I can do anything.
Well, and I think we've got all this time to put our energy into other things, you know? Like, imagine if women put all of their energy we put into, like, making ourselves beautiful all the time, into creating something or supporting this or starting a business, or, you know, I think we spend so much time on certain topics as a woman that we forget there's a million other things we can go do with that energy. So, Julianna, you're up. What are some practices for dealing with grief and loss? And can everybody hear all of us? And do we all need to speak up a little bit more? I was gonna do a microphone, but I felt like that would be too obnoxious if we had like a boom mic. A little more? Okay, Julianna, what are some practices for dealing with grief and loss?
I would love to answer that question, and I also feel like, can I take 3 minutes and share sort of my story?
We would love to hear your story.
I think that will give it better context. Because I'm coming back to Kansas City. I haven't been here for 10 years, but lived here for, what was it, like 4 months, 5 months? Had a baby who is now named Blaze Royal because we won the World Series at the time that we were here. And so I have just such a love for the city and a love for these women. And it's like this strange kind of healing loop for me to come back and be with you guys again. So thank you for having me, and thank you for welcoming me. So I was indoctrinated into a religion for 33 years. American evangelicalism, like most of us probably in this room have been. And I just kind of, you know, when you are raised into a religion, it's sort of ubiquitous. It's like the lens through which you see the entire world, right? It would be like if you were to ask a fish to describe water, they would go, huh? Like, that's just all I ever knew. And it painted me for who I was as a woman. And for me, that was a very hierarchical structure of a woman being submissive. And so, as Betsy can attest to, at her bachelorette party, my advice for her as a married woman was, you never deny your husband sex, because that was what I was raised, and that is like that's the rule I lived by, right? And like, your husband is your spiritual head, your husband is your leader. And I loved my life. I had a beautiful life, and I really fell into that kind of structure and really thrived there. And I became a Christian pop singer, sang for 11 years, performed here a lot actually. So I'm like, I met a couple of you that were like, I know you from that the whole day. And I'm like, oh God, thank you for being on this journey with me. But really loved it. I mean, I was able to perform all around the US and loved what I did because I love women, and nothing turns me on like seeing a woman set herself free. Nothing turns me on more than that. It is what I believe I was born to do. It's the whole purpose I'm walking this earth. I no longer struggle with that very existential question because I know what it is. But the thing is that I had my third daughter, Blaze Royal, and I started imagining me speaking to her and telling her that her proximity to God was in direct correlation to her proximity to a man. And I was like, I can't imagine myself telling her that. I can't imagine telling my son that he was born evil and depraved and separate from God. I can't imagine telling my children that they're already broken and in need of this thing out here for eternal salvation that can't be proven or disproven. And when I pulled that thread, and then I moved to Chicago and I met my first gay couple and I fell in love with them. And I was like, oh my God, you are not single-handedly destroying American democracy like I've been told my whole life. You're actually like quite lovely people. They were so generous with me and so patient with me to be able just to kind of poke holes in my logic, right? And so when you begin to exit this cave of a life, you start to see things really clearly, and you start to, the lens comes off, the mask comes off. And so I started to read. And I began reading, I have Plato tattooed on my arm now because I fell in love with philosophy. And as I started reading and researching philosophy, that world and my marriage and the system I was in was getting increasingly more threatening. I was taken to therapy and told I could not read Rumi because that meant I had an unhealthy obsession with love, who's a poet. I was told I had to stop reading philosophy because your heart is deceitful and desperately wicked, and who can understand it? And like, no, 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 no. So what does any good Christian girl do? Well, she hides her books. So that's what I did for 2 years as I just was quietly liberating myself from the inside out. And I own that. I own that I hid. And this is what happens when women read. Like, we begin to notice systems of oppression that we are in. We begin to challenge those systems of oppression. We begin to liberate ourselves quietly from the inside out. We begin to change the systems. We go back to school. We demand the raise. We apply for the job. We run for office. We fucking change the world. Like, this is actually what happens when women read. And I left that day, May 19th in 2019, and I left the religion. I left my marriage. I got kind of kicked out of my jobs. lost my career, lost my next book deal that was coming out, and went back to school. And I decided to study at the University of Oxford because I was like, how do I get myself out of very white, Western, American, evangelical perspective? You go to where it is a global world. You go to where people look and believe and think and love differently than you. And so my case study, and this is to your point a little bit earlier, my case study was on the internal oppressors of weaponized religion against women around the world. And the reason I did internal is because, Amy, you were talking about creating a hierarchical structure even of our oppression. And people do that. Oftentimes the first question I'll get is like, well, how were you oppressed? Like, you weren't oppressed. Like, we all saw you. You were like dancing and singing and doing your thing and dressing fabulous and like had this glorious life. You weren't oppressed. Well, what happens is when we begin to measure those external oppressors, we don't get anywhere. It's just another tool of the patriarchy to keep those systems in place. But when you talk about shame, and when you talk about fear, and when you talk about the desire to belong, and when you talk about wanting spiritual and intellectual autonomy, like when you talk about those things, all of a sudden the heartbeat of a woman is in the same rhythm, right? And so it was so interesting and fascinating because that's when I decided that this is what happens when women read is actually global. It's not just in the US, it's not just us evangelical women, which there are 47 million in the United States alone. But think about the liberation that could happen if we could demand every woman claim her right to spiritual, intellectual, sexual autonomy. how could that change the world? And so that is kind of the brief of my story. And to answer your question then, when a woman dares to reinvent herself, when you decide I am self-actualizing, it's kind of this moment, if any of you have been through childbirth, where they're like, no, 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 you have to push like now, right? Like the midwife's like, now is the time, you have to. And it's kind of that moment of like, if you don't push this new becoming out, it will die inside of you and it will slowly poison you from the inside out. And with that birth though, and with that reimagining of one's life and of what it could be, inevitably you lose a lot. Inevitably, people that are not willing to go on that journey with you are stuck in their certitude, are stuck in this very binary way of living. Inevitably, if they are unable to, it's a loss, and it's a really real loss. And for me, dealing with grief and dealing with loss, there was an abundance of, on a very, very practical level, I have a little table altar, and I have a candle that represents my ex-husband. I have a candle that represents my family, which I lost for 6 years. My parents, my siblings, not my children. My children kept me alive. But I think grief is like marbles. And if you're walking around with a handful of marbles and you bump into something, it's just gonna like spill out everywhere. And uncontrolled grief is like that. So when you give grief a containment, and what I found that was helpful for me was like, okay, I'm gonna sit down and meditate every morning, and I'm gonna light this candle for 10 minutes. And I'm gonna let all the grief out about the loss of my mother, you know? And then I'm gonna light this candle, and I'm gonna let all the grief out about the loss of my religion. And then I'm gonna light this one. And it was like, okay, then when something in life triggered or something in life bumped up against my situation, I knew in my head, oh, I've already given that grief a place to live. Like, you'll have your turn again, you know? Like, I'll get to you again tomorrow. So we don't have to walk around with our grief just kind of floundering everywhere. Like, we can actually be really specific and intentional with the way that we process it too. And it actually is something that I've taught my children as well. So it's a very practical tool for dealing with grief.
Yeah, I think we don't realize that we're going through so much grief when you go through a divorce, or when you lose your religion, or when you lose, relationships with even a friend. Like, it is such a huge moment of grief. And I think we don't even stop to deal with it because we just are so busy and we keep going. So thank you for sharing your story. And for me, I can really relate to the whole story. Like, other than the religious pop singer part, the whole thing is, but like when you said, like, if you don't go now, if you don't push now, if you don't get out now, you will die inside. If I hadn't started this business, I probably never would have left my marriage, because I had nothing else to go to. Do you know what I mean? It was all I had my whole 19 years. So for me, it was like, I was really pushed to start something. So I had something outside the home to go do. So I wasn't, and I don't like to say trapped, but in many ways it was trapped. You feel like a little bit like you're in a cage and you want to get out and fly. And it's like, how do you get out? You got to have something else to go to. And if you don't have something else, you're stuck for a little bit. So I like that you said that. You got to go. You got to push.
Can I piggyback on that real quick? Like, when I heard some of what you were saying, especially going now and the shame and so on and so forth, it kind of brought back when I was diagnosed with colon cancer in 2015, when I had to figure out what I was going to do with my life, And that was the surgery part with the chemo and all of these other things. And I knew I had a 50-50 chance there of surviving that disease. And with the power and the courage it took for you, I felt that courage speaking, the same courage has spoke to me and says, if I choose this path, that I wasn't going to make it, the surgery path, find another way, or figure out what caused this to happen to you in the first place, then you fix it and then move on. But that part just really resonated with me, and having that courage to think outside of the box or go within yourself. And it says, hey, Gigi, this way, come this way, you know, and having the courage to follow that regardless what everybody else was saying. I lost friends, I lost family because I chose to eat more vegetables. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, that's what we're going to call it. But, you know, not just with the food part as medicine, but also I had to go to the mental part. I had to shut everything down and work with my spirit within, and to self-heal through love and being one with myself, and regardless of what everybody else was saying, to release that, you know, and the shame behind it. And the shame was hearing people say, how dare you do that with your kids? You must don't love yourself. You're going to die if you don't have this surgery or listen to your doctors. But choosing a different path, I mean, I saved my own life, just like you. And I love that story you just shared.
I just want to piggyback on that too and say that we are, and this is true for all genders, but this world is constantly trying to get you to turn away from your own intuition. And what you're hearing here is people turning towards their own intuition. And I think that has definitely been a theme of my career as a therapist the last decade, is when you turn back towards yourself, all the answers come. So it's in there. You haven't lost it. You just either haven't learned to attune to it, or you have gone astray, but you can come back to it, you know? And so surrounding yourself with other people who are encouraging you to trust your own intuition and don't settle for anything less than that, you know?
Yes, and who you surround yourself is so important. Like your partner, your friends, who you surround yourself with becomes a direct reflection of you, and it can wreck your nervous system or it can make you fly. And I mean that in all sense of the word, whether it's business or just, I mean, your cortisol levels, everything revolves around who you're surrounded with all the time. So sometimes if you do lose everybody, if you do lose people that were no longer serving you, that's okay too. But you do have real trauma and loss in that. And it does take a little bit to overcome and mourn that, but it's for the best, you know? And some people no longer serve. 25-year-old Amy, who she surrounded herself with, is not who I should be surrounding myself with at 45. And that's okay. That's okay if they don't like what you're doing in your life. That's okay if they don't agree with your decisions. Let them go, you know, let it go, because it's like a weight that will drag you down. And it is important to be, if you're going to fly free, you cannot have that.
Yeah, I will say that the people that betrayed me the most forcefully were actually, I now consider my liberators. Had it not been so brutal, I don't know that I would have left. I don't know that I would have had the strength had I not been able to see so blatantly that, oh my God, the grace that you preach, you do not have the stomach to give. You actually don't understand mercy or love. Like, I understand it. And it is this sense of worth. I think that every child, now with my own children, when they ask me about certain theological ideas or things that they've heard from somebody else, I'll say, does that feel like love or does that feel like fear? And they immediately know, because we are made by love and for love. It is intrinsic within you. You are worthy and valued in and of yourself. Yeah. But I think that the problem that we have in not listening to our intuition or not listening to ourselves is that we do not find ourselves worthy. But my God, you are so worthy, like in and of yourself, for being who you are. Woman, male, non-binary, doesn't matter. What matters is who you are on the inside. And you know that you are loved, because you wouldn't be here without love. You would not have survived as a child without love. You are that, you know it. And so I think that the real power comes when we can believe that and we align our lives to it. Like, you tether yourself to that and you make every single decision based upon that. And you listen to Walt Whitman when he says, re-examine all you have learned in your school, in your church and in any book and dismiss whatever insults your own soul. That is a profound statement of agency. He's saying to us, you are worthy, you have agency, you can trust it, you can in fact trust it so much that I dare you to dismiss everything else. Like, how fucking awesome.
I love that. Yay! And I do think when your soul is aligned with other things in your life and when it's not and when it doesn't feel right, and you do have to go with always how you feel on things. Okay, what are some practices for regaining confidence? You.
Well, I had to do them back there because I struggle pretty significantly with PTSD now and anxiety. And so there are some practical measures that I take, which is doing power poses in the bathroom before you come out. Really feeling your feet on the ground, tethering yourself, knowing that you're your physical person. I refer to my body as a she now because I think that she's holding me. She's holding my spirit. She's holding my mind. And that's what I value the most. And I honor her. And so I listen to what she's telling me and the way that my body is reacting, which is so funny. But also, reminding yourself, giving yourself attributes and reminding yourself of who you are is really important. Also, I'm very intentional when I go in and out of bathrooms because bathrooms are a quiet, there's not much human dignity. There's a reason that we hide ourselves in there, right? So be cognizant of the fact that when you exit a bathroom that you are regaining your personhood and your humanity and your womanliness and your whole person. That for me has been helpful in regaining my confidence. Otherwise, I will quickly cross that threshold and then all of a sudden be kind of taken aback by something or triggered by something. So those are just a couple of little tips that I have.
I love that. Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna ask Alisha a few things because I feel like we've had a lot of trauma and I like that you're the healer of the trauma. What are some key struggles women have when it comes to intimacy? Because I feel that women are taught to kind of please the opposite sex as a young girl and kind of exchange our bodies and give ourselves freely because someone wants it. And I think a lot of women have sexual trauma and we've been sexually harassed and sexually assaulted, so I think we have a lot of intimacy issues and I would love to hear from you.
Yeah. So what are they? Call them out. What are struggles with intimacy? Fear, shame. Orgasms, fear, shame, consent. Not even knowing what we desire, what our interest is, what feels okay to us, because our bodies, we already talked about this. Sometimes people believe they don't even belong to us. And so right now, even as you're sitting there, are you even sitting in a way that feels comfortable for you? Maybe. Right. Do it then. Do it.
Yeah, I want to sit with my legs apart. I want to sit like a man.
Because you're not even going to know until you start doing the thing, right? So I've been back here chilling the whole time, listening to everybody. And I'm ooh, my back hurts. Let me adjust. Ooh, I want to sit like this. I'm nervous. Let me pick my fingers. Why? Because I feel like it. So those are some of the struggles. We don't know what we want. We don't know how to ask. We're afraid to ask. Somebody's going to tell us no, which fuck that. Those are the struggles, right? And then how do we communicate it? And I think that's one of my other questions. So can I just roll right into it? So how do we communicate that? So right now, I asked you, how do you want to sit that makes you feel comfortable? Do it. Do it. Whatever. Right. Give your body what it needs. So when we're wanting to communicate about our desires, how do we do that if we don't even know what they are? So I invite you to assuming everyone here, which is maybe a wrong assumption, but everyone here has a vulva, get to know it. Her, whatever. Spend time with her, touch her. I say that and I see some eyebrows going up. Right. In the shower, out of the shower, in the bed, relaxing. How are you going to be able to tell somebody what you even want if you don't even know what you like? And they for sure aren't going to know because I can go on a whole... I can go on a whole tangent about finding the clitoris. So first you have to know is what I'm going to invite you to do. Spend some time with your body. And then how do we communicate it, right? So I'm going to say this now and I'll say it again later. I'm going to have a free virtual masterclass. So risewithalisha.com is where you find my info. Write it down. Rise, R-I-S-E. Rise. A-L-I-S-H-A. Risewithalisha.com. I'm going to have a virtual masterclass this week on how to have better arguments and deeper conversations. And the reason is because I want to build up to having deeper conversations. And why can't we have them is because we're too busy arguing about things that don't even matter, like who bought what kind of cheese at the store. I don't know. Like, it for real, like, if we're having arguments about the smallest things in our relationships, we can't communicate about what's really, really important because we're afraid to say it, or we're afraid to open up, like Julianna was talking about, living in your own truth. So I know I'm rushing a little bit and I'll probably circle back around because I'm just so excited. But first, we have to be able to have we have to know what we want. So step one, check your own body out. What feels good? You like playing with the bottom of your feet? Great. Know that. And then when somebody's open, they're able to hold the container of your desires, then you tell them. But if it's really, really difficult to have that conversation, or it leads to argument because penis comes first or whatever. And so if that is what is happening, we have to find ways to have conversations about that and how to say, hey, your genitalia is important and so is mine. Or I really like to be safe and comfortable in this experience with you. Or how about you ask me if I like that before you just assume, because pornography is not going to teach them that, even though they believe it does. I'm going to rewind it back to...
Do you recommend having those conversations like prior or like in the middle of intimacy or before, like a separate conversation?
So yeah, great question, because I consider any foreplay or any of that is sex. So we're having a conversation before we even think about disrobing. We're having a conversation as we're getting comfy, touching each other, maybe making out, whatever it is that you like. We're having a conversation there. We're having a conversation, you know, in any part. And I do not believe that penis and vagina intercourse is the only way, right? So this is why we're having conversations the whole time. And if I were a person who was dating, I've actually been with my partner for 27 years. And so for me, we just grew up together. So we were going to have every conversation together. But if I were a dating person, I would be having this conversation probably pretty early about like, yeah, what is important to you? And here's what's important to me, because what matters to me is important. And so that's why, you know, I just want to like say, like, step into who you are, be able to say, like, that really isn't for me. I don't really like that. And the only way we're going to figure it out is if you know it first, because come on, let's teach them how to do it right. That was a rant. I'm sorry. Yeah.
So good.
Alisha, one thing I was thinking too is that the longer you're with someone too, you see that there are so many fluctuations to that too, right? With conversations or what feels good for lots of different reasons throughout our life cycle. And periods where communication about that is easier than other times. Like, why does this feel so difficult now when it was so easy before? And so I guess I'm saying that because I want you to know that's normal and we're all experiencing that, right? Like,
and the fluctuations of desire for yourself, right? Like, I may not want to XYZ today, but tomorrow, bring it on.
Right.
It just depends on, again, knowing what your body wants and desires and what you feel. And it all occurs in the context of safety. And so just to circle back to how do we even know when we feel safe? Julianna talked about it. Julia talked about it. Gigi, you talked about knowing what felt right to you when you were making your decisions for your health. How do you know? Anyway, you don't have to say it out loud, but how do you know what feels right? What feels safe? What is a yes and a no? Do we know? Do you know what a yes is for you? And when people are in the office working with me, I'm looking for an embodied yes. I'm not looking for I'm just going to say it because women are supposed to say it. I'm going to pause you. If we work together, or if we had ever worked together, I'm pretty busy, but if we ever worked together, I would say, wait, is that really a yes? How do you know? And so write it down. If you all came prepared, write down what's a yes for you. That's going to be your like step into that. Mm-hmm.
Wait, one more thing.
Yes, give it to us.
Alisha is in Topeka, and I have been talking to her today about trying to do a group here that I will be attending. I highly recommend that you start following her, you know, and maybe come to that group too, because it's going to be a good one. Yeah?
Yeah, I'm not super great at social media or all the things, but what I will say is if you go to my website, Rise with Alisha, and you email me, I'm happy to tell you what we have going on. Juliet is my friend and is working to get me here, which I'm happy to be here because y'all are fun. But to come here and what I would be really interested in doing is a somatic women's healing kind of group. Small group, and we're gonna literally work on how do we know what's within, how do we know what feels good, and how do we know what signs our body's telling us in terms of freeze, fight, flee, what do we do in that? And then again, how to gain capacity for difficult emotions, and instead of just tolerating, I can make it through, I'm okay. We're not gonna do that. If you're really down for like working on some real shift work, some movement, then join Julia.
And Alisha's also going to lead us in a mini breath work when we're done.
Sure, yeah.
And then after we finish this, there's also going to be acupuncture and mini massages after the breath work. So
You're going to need them.
we are going to need them. We are going to need them. Okay, I'm going to go on to Paige because I don't want us to go too long. I know everyone's been sitting a long time. Okay, Paige, Paige is really important to me because, like I said, a lot of my struggles as a woman has come from not having real financial independence in my life. And finding financial independence is really difficult when you haven't had it and figuring out what to do. And you kind of give all of your financial autonomy away to a man in a lot of marriages. So even though my mom said not to, I did not listen to her. She said it 100,000 times. And I just said, Mom, I've got this. So now my mom has to help me all the time. Thank you, Mom. Okay, Paige, why should women invest? And what are the different ways women can save and invest if they run the household or their own company?
So as I'm sitting here, I keep thinking about how I call it politics. I mean, I said this earlier to someone, the person that you partner with in life is the biggest financial decision you will ever make. It is not your career. It is not whether or not to have children. It is who you partner with. And if you make a decision to partner with someone. So as I'm sitting here and I'm listening to these conversations, I'm thinking about how resentment and how those things can build in a relationship and how it affects how we feel to our partner sexually, how all of these things that play into how money is such a big factor there. And we don't even know it because of how we're treated or how that's playing out in our life. Now, that's not to say that everybody in this room is married to someone and they feel, like they're unable to handle finances. And we said it earlier. It's not that we don't know anything about money as women, it's that we view it differently. Mm-hmm. So I will tell you that I've been doing this over 20 years now, and it's really fascinating to me because those conversations that happen in my office are centered around how we feel about money as a tool. That's all it is. And so if you're coming at this saying, well, I don't really care about money, you should, because it's how you are going to receive health care. It's how you're going to raise your family. It's how you're going to find yourself and feel independent in this world. You should care about money because unfortunately it's what we have to care about in order to be independent or have access to things. I don't know about you, and this kind of plays along with this. I'm in menopause and probably on the outside of it, but I have to pay a lot of money out of pocket so that I can receive good care because it's not happening in the doctor's offices. It's not happening. So I have to hire a functional medicine doctor so that I can get these certain things. And I think about that all the time. If I didn't have the resources to do this, how miserable I would be. So what was the question?
No, I just like hearing you talk because this is all really important.
So
for us
it
to
plays
hear.
again into this, and there's a lot of different ways. There are women in this room who run business. Do any of you in this room run a business? Have your own business? Okay. So it's really important. Yeah, it's really important to know that you need to come to the table. So when I work with a couple and it happens that only one of the partners comes into the meetings, I know there's an issue. If the person that they're with is not coming to the meetings, there's an issue. There's a miscommunication, there's a misrepresentation of the value of those conversations. Because in those meetings, this is what's so fascinating to me. I will have people sit across from me at the table. They're referred to me. I work a lot in the LGBT community as well. And they will sit across from me and go, oh, I know I should know this. I know I should know this. How would you know this? You don't walk into a doctor's office and say that. You don't walk into an attorney's office and say that. You're freely giving them money to solve a problem. You don't walk into a tax person and say that. I hear it all the time. I should know this. Why should you know that? If you weren't in it. I do this all the time. This is what I do for a living. You shouldn't walk in and know all this or else you wouldn't be here. So you're coming into it. I typically will do a 15-minute phone call before anybody even comes in the office, just to set them at ease. I've learned over the years that one of the most stressful meetings a person can have is with a doctor, attorney, or a financial advisor. And there is no reason to feel that when you walk into a room. You should never feel that way when you're in the room. No one should ever make you feel like they're more knowledgeable than you. Their job is to teach you, not treat you like you should know. So I think that's where this comes from, right? I don't want to be in the room because I don't know anything about that. I shouldn't know that. The conversations that should be going on in any meeting around money is, how do you feel? What keeps you up at night? What are your goals? Where's the money? Where are you? So it starts with, where are you? Where's the money? What are you doing? What are you currently doing? What are the goals? And then how can we get there? It's really that simple. And if somebody treats you like it's not, they're not worth it. I spend my time taking people through and making sure they're not making bad decisions. That's what I do. Building a portfolio is the easiest thing I do. You can train a monkey to build a portfolio. You can go online and build a portfolio. 20 years ago when I started this, people needed me to get access to understand investments. There's so much information out there, and finances and money is so personal. Do not lean into people on TV ringing bells and banging bongo drums and think that that is going to be your personal financial expert. They are not. You have your own personal goals. You have your own ideas about money, you have your own thoughts about it, and if you are partnering with someone, that's the key word, you have a voice in those financial decisions. Like Amy, I begged to see the checkbook when I was married before. He would give me jewelry, and I'd say, what do we have in savings? And I never knew.
I will say the money is the power. I've always said I don't care about money.
Yes.
You know, I can live without money. I could live on a beach somewhere, this and that.
You can't.
Money ruled my whole marriage because I don't know if everyone knows this, but my husband was my boss before. He hired me to work for him. He paid me a lot of money. And like the narrative at first was it's a Cinderella story. And then my narrative now can change and be like, well, that felt like, you know, someone had the power over me because they were paying me a lot of money. And when they did hit on me, was I going to say no and go back to waiting tables and digging quarters out of my couch? Probably not. So is this the best option? And did I like the person? Yes. So let's go that direction. But then the whole time the money is the power. The whole time I don't have any money and they have all the money. But that just shows you the power is so off that someone could sit there and say, I can do exactly what I want, say what I want, do what because I pay for things. And I thought I'll never need someone to pay my bills again. I would rather get my bills down this low and be able to make it myself and take my power back. Because your money is your power. Your knowledge is your power. All of that is your power. And to give that power away to someone, it's hard to get it back. You got to go all the way down to the bottom to climb all the way back up again.
And I think that part of the struggle with that, I don't know about anybody else in this room, I'm attracted to success. I'm attracted to people who have created and done things. And so it's for me, it was, you know, when you talk to people and they've done and they've created things, when I was going into my ex-husband, when I was with him, he was very successful, and it was very attractive to me that he was so successful, and that he could hold a room, that he commanded this space. I didn't understand that so my experience was I just let it go because I trusted that as well. So I can say I got a little lazy. I was enjoying the trips and the ride and the whole thing. So, and I take accountability for that. That was on me. I wasn't, you know. I don't know. I just felt like saying that. I think that there's something to that.
For sure. And a lot of people will say, oh, well, you did enjoy it. Like when Julianna was saying, well, it looked like you were having fun. It looked like you were enjoying it. Look at your Instagram pictures or look at your life or your vacation. What was the problem? How were you oppressed? What was the problem with that?
There is and I said this earlier too, there's a politics in it. In all marriages or all relationships, there's a politics in it that we start to navigate. And what I see with couples is I have never seen a couple come in that actually agreed about money. I mean, we all come into the relationship, or even on our own. I don't mean to make this about couples even. We all bring our own ideas. I mean, money is a reflection of who we are. I always say money is an intensifier. The more money you have, the more you're going to really start to see. If you're an asshole, you're a bigger asshole with money. If you're generous, you're more generous with money. It's just, you know, it's a way it's a personality intensifier. So when we're sitting down, I can tell immediately, you know, what's going on with someone and how the dynamic. I had a guy literally storm out of my office because he wasn't getting what he wanted out of that conversation. He wanted to retire, and I'm like, you can't retire. And his wife was telling me he couldn't retire. And he was going to retire, and I'm like, you're an idiot. And they got divorced. They got divorced after they were high school sweethearts, and he's 60-something years old, and they got divorced. Because what did he do? He sat around and drank all day. So my point in all this is that you have a voice, and you're right in your voice.
Yes, please.
So I guess there are a lot of women that want to be able to stay home with their kids, be able to do so.
This is a difficult one.
2/3 of women. 2/3 of women want to do that.
So I guess for you, like going back, or if they're hypothetically or not hypothetically, is there's a couple that's coming to you and they're fresh and young and in love, and the woman is able to stay at home with her children. What, as a financial advisor, is your advice? And going beyond.
That's a good question.
Great question.
This is the best question.
No, yeah. People want to quantify your value by what you're bringing in, and they don't. It's very important to quantify what you're doing for the household, right, and how that plays out. So I don't know so when I'm working with couples and say it depends on it depends on if they run a business, it depends on if they work for an employer. There are ways for them to put away money in your name. So there are ways, there's a lot of different ways you can do it, but there are investing tools. The IRS allows you to sock money away for a non-working spouse. So if you are in the home, and it's in your name, to be clear, this is not a joint account. This is literally your own IRA. So you can, because you don't have employment income, now there's dynamics here, so I'm generalizing here. Again, this is more of a deeper discussion, but you can put money away, and I always ask them to do that. Listen, you need to start putting away money. You can absolutely save more for retirement by putting some money away in your wife's name. Okay,
it's not unpaid labor.
It's not.
That is labor,
and obviously there's a lot of value to it. So it's important for you to know that there are ways for you to put away money in your own name, and it will never go out of your name. It cannot go out of your name. It cannot be jointly held. It is in your name. If somebody owns a business, you can sock away a lot of money. You can put away a lot. Now, the biggest mistake that business owners do is where do they put it? Where do they put their money? Right back into their business. Because it's what you... Because it's what you know. It's what you know, and it's yours. It's your baby. How are you going to sell that business? What are you going to do? What is the exit? So I would ask you, what is your exit plan? So if you've got this great business, what is your exit plan? So I have this means nothing to you. I have this designation called the CEPA designation. It's a certified exit planning advisor. All it is allows me a certified exit planning advisor. I'm also a certified financial, we can talk about designations and all that stuff. But anyway, it is so that I have access to attorneys, to people who value businesses, to tax professionals that specifically work with business owners. If you're running a business, you need to look at it. It is not going to be very profitable if you're the only person that's valuable. So if you're not creating a retirement plan for your employees, if you're not doing things to make it so that you go, look, you can step in and buy this from me. We talk about real estate. What do you own? What do you own the building? I mean, there's lots of different, you can take time, but you've got to have those conversations, and you need to value that business a good 5 years before you plan on exiting it. So
I just want to add something. I want to add something to this, which is that I know in this room right now, because it's just my career has taught me this and beyond. So take this to a friend who's not here today. There are those of us in this room that might be sitting here thinking, I don't need to listen to a lot of this information because I'm good and I'm solid right now. But there's really no other way to say it other than bad things happen all the time. And, you know, if I told you how many women I've worked with who have been married to someone 30 years and then something awful happens and now they're divorcing and left with nothing, you know, so please know that taking care of yourself now does not mean when you're planning financially or whatever, right? It doesn't mean that you don't trust your spouse or that we don't have enough love in our relationship or whatever. No, it's just good sense, right? Like it's good. I matter. My first responsibility is to myself. I need to make sure this thing is in order, and then I can show up more wholly for you. So talking about prenups, you know, and I was advising a friend of mine in regards to that, right? Like it is very important to think about your worth in the unimaginable could happen, like what you need right now, thinking about that, because it may happen, and it does, unfortunately. So I just want to say that, because that's one way where we don't prepare. We sort of live in this world where it's like, well, that's not going to happen to me. We're all good right now. I mean, I love my husband. We've been married a couple of years together, 7, but believe me, there are moments where I think to myself, it may not last forever. I don't know why it would end, but I have to be thinking about that, you know, because I have to take care of myself. And so, yeah.
And people die.
And that too.
And people die. So to your point too, I mean, life insurance and things like that. And you don't need to spend a bunch of money on life insurance. Term insurance is cheap. And, you know, so it's, people change. People change. And that's okay. And if you're not partnered up with someone, you really need to protect yourself. You need to make sure that what if you go rock climbing and fall off a hill? And now I have this friend from Mississippi. I have to share this. It's the funniest thing to me. I wanted to get a motorcycle. I don't know what was going on when I turned like 40. And she was like, Paige, you would not be lucky enough to die in a motorcycle accident. I would have to change your diaper. And she's like, you are not doing that. So disability happens. So there are ways to protect that. Those are conversations to keep in mind. Bad things happen. It's life. And so, yeah.
Okay, so what is step 1? Like I have
great question.
Income difference from my husband. I work part-time.
Yep.
So where do I begin?
Great question. So I don't know. I can only tell you my process and what that looks like. I don't want to speak for other advisors or what that. First of all, I want to make sure that you're very clear. I don't care what you do. Work with someone who is licensed. In this age of a lot of information, do not work with financial influencers. Please. I mean, I'm not saying they're not. I follow financial influencers. I'm not saying they're not good. I'm saying work with someone who doesn't have what I would call conflict of interest. Be smart about it. What are they really seeking here? So they can't, making sure they don't have a conflict of interest. So if you were to call my office, for example, you said, you know what, I'm going to find out more. I want to figure out what's going on in my life. If you were to call my office, Sarah, my office manager, who's phenomenal, she would say, hey, would you be willing to do a 15-minute phone call with Paige? And I do this for a reason, because again, I recognized years ago that it can be really weird to just walk into an office, a financial advisor's office, and go, what am I doing here? What do I need? How are you paid? What does this look like? Am I going to have to write a check for this? What am I doing? You don't, by the way. Is I just take that 15 minutes to kind of find out, okay, where are you? What do we need to talk about? And then I will suggest this is what you need to bring. This is maybe what, where we start. It just starts with a conversation. And I've always told people, you're not bringing a checkbook, you're not writing it, we're just talking. It's a conversation. You should not feel like you are obligated to do anything unless it makes sense to you. And so if you are partnered with someone and they have a financial advisor, they're working with someone, you need to go to the meetings. You need to start saying, I want to go to the meetings. If that financial advisor is not saying that you should be at the meetings, or that's an issue, maybe go find your own financial advisor then.
What your husband's like the accountant.
Well, he's doing all of his own investing.
For one thing. Yeah. Like he is our tax CPA, CFO. He does all the investing, is an accountant, and really good at math.
So you're still partnered with this person?
No, I'm not. I'm divorced.
Yeah, but I get where you're going with that. Then I would seek out your own advice. And because this is the challenge, is that that is all the power. You need to know where the money is, what's in your name. You need to know these things. You don't want to uncover this in divorce.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
When you have those conversations with a partner, what are the red flags that you know that your different approaches to money means that this isn't going to work? And when do you see that versus when you can change financial literacy between a couple?
So when you say this isn't going to work, do you mean the conversation isn't going to work?
Partnership. You see, they're not willing to change the way they approach money, and you guys can't align.
That usually what I would say, if you're not aligning with money, there's a deeper issue there.
Yeah.
So I have told people, you don't have a money issue, you have a marriage issue.
Yeah. And
So
sure. And when you see that
therapy.
Therapy, yes. And there's no way that can change.
So
No.
No. I'm saying I disagree with that.
I kind of disagree.
Yeah, I think
that's my question.
Yeah, it goes back to the attachment thing that I was saying, is you're looking to see, can this person grow, evolve, change with me?
Yeah. Right.
Or are they blocking any sort of, nope, not doing anything different, sorry, never, no.
Yeah.
And if you need to flesh that out, right? And once you do, then you have a choice, right? So if they're saying no, never, never, ever, then there's nothing to talk about. But if you can keep talking about it, absolutely people can evolve and change. I'd be out of a job if that wasn't the case.
So I would also say, in defense of the spouse that is now they may question, why do you want to know? If you have been uninvolved for years and now all of a sudden you're asking, they'd be like, what is going on? They may just need to question it and allow them that space, is all I'm saying. Allow them to be, why do you want to know? Are you going to leave me? And now is there something else going on? And now you want to know everything? Why do you want to know everything? So allow a clear idea of listen, I've recognized that I have not been a part of this conversation. And I realize now it's very important for me to feel safe in our marriage or our relationship, for me to know these things for myself. And I want the opportunity to have this conversation, not for any other reason other than I feel like it's important to me to feel safe in our relationship. I encourage, when I'm working with clients, I encourage those conversations. And if I've even told clients in conversations, I had a tough conversation with some clients last week. And I said, listen, here's what you need to do. You guys need to go talk. You guys just need to go talk, and then we need to come back together. I don't need to be involved. I mean, I'm 90% therapist in these things, but I do feel like there are times when couples need space to have these conversations. Recognize that money is very emotional. Look at someone's checkbook and they'll tell you everything you need to know about them.
Sounds like we need like a whole financial literacy woman event. No,
Yeah,
I'm dead
yeah.
serious because Kaylee just messaged and said that to me because I actually think this is such a big topic. I don't think we realize what a big topic this is, and that is where a lot of our power lies for men and for women.
Right.
You know, and this is, and also I just want to reiterate, this is not a man bash session.
No. Yeah.
I love men, and I think we all love men. It's more of a society patriarchy situation than it is. I think men need to also be empowered to be more vulnerable and communicate better sexually, with money, with all of that, so they don't crumble when times get hard and dive into certain things. Yes, it is really. I honestly think we should put on like almost like men empowerment things too, to like teach them how to communicate and talk to each other and talk to us too, because it really is not just. It's not men versus women. This is a really, a conversation that brings both sexes together so we can have better families and parents and partnerships and lower cortisol levels.
I used to teach a class. I used to teach a course years ago around just financial literacy. And when you have a couple that comes together to those things, it's really powerful. It's really powerful. Yeah.
I think also too, there's so many more conversations now, like you said, in the age of so much information, there's so many conversations about the power of the female dollar. And like,
Yes.
About like Taylor Swift. Like,
we are the economy.
She brought so much money to this area when she came here, and just the way women are spending their money. And I think where there's more conversations about it, and I think it's really.
And that's another way that women can support women is spending money with each other. I make a huge point to put my dollars towards female-owned businesses, or to hire women, or to collaborate with women. Where I eat, I try to go to woman-owned. Because that is our power. And if you can't empower women without spending money with women, hiring Paige to be a financial, person, anything you can do to support a woman. I think that you should try to do that because it doesn't just empower them, it empowers you and the whole community. And then we can be stronger moms and afford healthcare and childcare, and then we can get out and make more businesses and do more creative, cool stuff. So I hate to wind this down, but we're over time. But Alisha's gonna do a breathwork session with us. And there's also mini massages and acupuncture. And I'm wondering if anybody that wants acupuncture, it's $20 or it's ear seeds. And if you guys want it while we're doing breath work, maybe raise your hand and we can do it while we're doing breath work. Is that a bad idea? Trying to combine things. How long is the breath work session?
Well, I was gonna say, if people are open for continuing the conversation, we don't even have to do the breath work, because I feel like there's a whole vibe going here. I don't wanna interrupt.
Would you raise your hand? Well, it's gonna be a democracy. How long is breath work?
How long do you want it to be?
Maybe like a good 5-minute session.
Oh, okay, let's skip it then.
You think? Does anybody have big questions they want to ask? Okay, I'm gonna pee really quick. Sorry, I can't hold it.
See, I'm just going to point out that if this was a male panel, he sure as hell wouldn't be okay with being flexible and saying, I give it up. Like, let's just go with what the vibe is here, right? I'm sorry, but that's true.
Yeah, sorry. Follow.
So, like a lot of you have talked about, it seems like a lot of women in this room, I'm a divorced woman and single mom, and I'm, unexpected things in life happen with jobs, and I'm starting my own business, and I've always been very financially panicky, and my don't want to go into debt, all those things. Starting business, you have to do it to get it going in the first year. So what are some like key tips or things that you would give to someone to get in that position? How much debt should you carry? How much should you pay?
As little as possible. So I know I'm gonna be really straight with you here, and I get that, and it would be more of a deeper conversation individually. What needs to happen? What is going on? What is the payoff? What is the things like that? What I will tell you is that one of the most powerful tools you have is not taking out debt. Is that always, the way that we can do things? No, it's not. I mean, you need, but I will tell you, it's very powerful not to create debt for yourself, because everything you earn comes right back to you. So it would really be an individual conversation. So if I've got someone who wants to launch a business, we're going to sit down and go and put pen to paper. Usually they'll give me the information. I'll study it. I'm a nerd. I love all the data, and I'm going to analyze that for someone. And we're going to look at what the options are and the resources that you have, and what that looks like. And so, it's a more extensive conversation. Then we're going to put some goals to it, right? So what does this really look like? What are you getting for this? What is there any other opportunity for any other way? Just exhausting it. I'm really good at playing devil's advocate a little bit. But I'll tell you that where I see one of the biggest things that I see is debt loads that people carry that will start to ruin a financial health. I'll tell you the two things that will kill a financial plan. Health, so a healthcare crisis, a health issue, all those things. So I see that. Bad boundaries with people. Kids, family, I had a couple that literally spent half of their retirement to take care of her sister. I cried when they left my office. She was in an abusive relationship and they were taking care of her. I'm like, you're not taking care of her by giving her money. So, I mean, that was, there's a lot more to that conversation. But all I'm saying is that boundaries are a big issue with ourselves, with other people, really, really honoring money. How, what am I doing? How does this look? But being conscious of it. So if I'm doing a plan for a business owner, we're putting that debt in, we're looking at it, then we're talking about it. Where are you on this? How does this feel? Is there an opportunity to refinance it? Is there, there's lots of different ways to manage that, but it's really individualized. So.
What else?
I want to say something that should be general knowledge, but isn't. When you're getting divorced, if you've been the stay-at-home parent, assigning a value to working in the household is difficult. The best thing you can do, and I don't know why no one's going to think of it, you start keeping track of your hours because any of your contemporaneous notes count as evidence in court. So there's that with valuing you as a homemaker. On the other hand, if you don't want to work and you want to continue to take care of children after the divorce, they are quick to impute income to you. You know what I mean? You see what I mean? There's a double standard thing here going on. So you have to take care of yourself in the beginning of your marriage, and no one wants to think, oh, I might get divorced. And keep track of hours and write down what you're doing and things like that. Nobody knows that. Why should they? It's supposed to be a happy time. So we won't talk about money, but you got to keep track of that stuff. So I don't know why no one ever says anything about that. It only comes up when you get divorced. So.
Going back in. We can continue the conversation as long as we want and then just save an hour at the end for mini massages, acupuncture, and maybe whoever wants to do a breathwork session with Alisha can stay seated, and whoever wants to go shop or do something else can get up. Yes, no.
You're looking at me? I'm really cool if we skip it.
Okay.
But really, I'm not offended. This conversation has been great for me too. So.
Okay, is everyone okay hanging in there? Does everyone need to pee or get a bite to eat? I feel like we're going long in the tooth, but I don't know. I can't gauge if everyone is into it or they're like, oh my God, can we take a break and get something to eat? I need coffee. Oh my God, and anybody can get up anytime they want to. You're not you're not trapped. What?
Is it a good place to wrap?
Go ahead, Julie.
Crushed. I was kind of going back to what you guys were talking about relying on self and trusting self. Do you guys have tips for that? As I'm trying to relearn my thought patterns to better self-serve. What are ways that you can kind of tap into your intuition and your gut feeling versus the lies you've grown up? I also grew up conservative Christian. So those things that you grow up with, and how do you differentiate your self-thought versus what you taught yourself?
Can I just jump in then?
Yeah, anyone.
One, I already believe that every person has everything they need inside them, period. So when I say what is that? Is it an embodied yes or no? It's if you already have everything you need, then what is actually happening for you as you inquire about whatever thing you're presented with? Is there an inkling of discomfort or a little twinge of nervousness? Is it actually fear? That's for you to sit with and then go with.
And I like what Juliana and Julia both said about having courage and bravery. The courage to like hear your own voice and what feels right and what doesn't feel right, and have the bravery to keep on that path that you know is true. Doesn't matter what the noise says from outside. Doesn't matter what your best friend says. Doesn't matter what your mom says. Doesn't matter what your husband says. It's how you feel about, you know, decisions you're making and the way you feel about yourself and staying true to things. So I think that's really important. That takes a lot of courage though, to stay in that every single day, no matter what. And it can get overwhelming.
Have you ever heard the saying, don't take advice from people more fucked up than you?
Yes. No, I haven't heard that, but I like that.
When I was going through my divorce, it was all the people that had been divorced 5 times that wanted to give me advice.
The other thing that I'll say to that is, you know, in psychology, you know, we love to give assessments. And I think sometimes assessments should actually be given to the people that know us best about us, because we are relational beings. And so you really don't know, like if you took a person and put them on an island and they never interacted with any other human being, they really wouldn't have a sense of self. It's necessary to have one another in order to learn like who you are, what you like, right? That's why we continue to evolve as we meet new friends and have conversations and stuff. We discover new things about ourselves. So my answer to that would be, look to your friends. Then this is hard for someone who has more of an insecure attachment style, right? But if you have the courage in the moment, pooling people that know you well or that are close to you is a great way to come back to your intuition too. Because, you know, for example, like, when's a time where you've seen me at my best? When's a time where you thought, gosh, she's so strong? Ask people close to you, whether that's your family, friends, what have you, and take a highlighter and look for themes in that. And usually you can find yourself through that. Does that make sense?
I would say too, to add on to that, read.
Yeah.
Like read. Read women's stories. Read women's stories that have passed. Read women's stories, you know, that are current. Don't be afraid to just consume as much as you can and to be really curious. It's fun. Like you're discovering yourself. Like that should be such a joyful kind of experience, you know? So there, I would say refuse being timid around it and look at it as an exploration. I even feel that way in dating now. Like every person that I date, whether it's a man or a woman, is a reflection of me in some way. And I'm learning something about myself. It has nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with finding out who I am. And I tell my children often that every human is born with outlets on their body. And maybe this outlet like really lights me up. Maybe this one is fine, but it doesn't really light me up. We have them. We have all of these different proclivities or needs or desires or ways in which we live our lives. We don't need, we're not ever going to get them all filled by someone else, whether that's a friend or a partner or something. You can fill them yourself, you know, but there will be, I think the fun kind of curious exploration here is like, what does light me up? Like what can I not do without? Like we all have different ways of connecting with one another, whether it's spiritual, creative, sexual, intellectual, we could go on, but so there are 4, right? I have to have intellectual and sexual plugged into me. Not gonna work otherwise, you know? You might be creative with me, but if you don't have those 2, does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So in a way, it's like, it's just a fun kind of journey with books and literature and women's stories and men's stories and stories of people evolving. Like, how incredible is it that we have books that contain entire lives within 2 pieces of leather, and they survived those lives, you know? And so you will survive your own. It's just being, you know, I think being playful.
Yeah, and really enjoying it too. Go ahead.
And I wanted to say something a little bit about we're all spiritual beings, right? And you talked about that advice from people that have the same issue or worse off than you, or everyone's a doctor, right? You act, oh, I have a headache. Oh, take this. So anyway, what I was getting at is that we're all spiritual beings. And with that prayer and being still and being with yourself, the answer will truly come to you on the next step to take, truthfully.
Since I counselor, not a coach, but something that I think about a lot is it's like a muscle. And so when you practice it with the little things, it builds and builds. And then you can practice it with the big things like who I marry or who I have a bank account with, you know. Yeah. But kind of find out where your muscle is strong and then learn where it's weak. Little by little.
And I too, like, I feel like I'm navigating some of this with my 14-year-old daughter of like when you go into a space, like paying attention to how your body feels. I feel like a lot of times I was made to ignore, like if I didn't feel comfortable in a space and that there's something wrong with me. And so as she's navigating like different churches, and because we didn't really bring up our kids religious, but if they're going to different churches or different spaces, she'll come home now and be like, I didn't feel good in that space. I don't think I want to go back there. And so I think just paying attention to how your body feels, and it's okay. Like,
yes.
But that's okay to be nervous talking in front of a group of people. So I think it's just, it's okay to feel however you feel and listen to whatever your body is doing at that moment.
Yes, I love that. And I honestly, I want to like say one thing. I think our time is so precious and so valuable. I decided, you know, after my divorce and turning into my 40s, that I don't want to spend any time in a space where I don't feel good ever again. So I don't have the time to waste away from my kids or my business or myself to be with people who don't make me feel good. You know, and to know that doesn't make you feel good and to know I'm not doing that again, or just to leave right then and there. I'm not doing that. And that I think is really honoring yourself and, you know, staying true to things. So, but you've got to know when you don't feel good. But I think we know.
I think that's amazing that you're teaching your kiddo that at that age, because I think a lot of times what I end up seeing is parents that are saying that and they want that in every other relationship except with the parent. Does that make sense? So I'm basically telling my kid then, I want you to have good intuition and good boundaries except with me. And with me, I want you to do what I tell you. And that's good, Julia. That happens all the time. And so I think if there is a major takeaway for me, it would be like start young, your children having their own interests, their own things they don't like, even if it's food. In my house, it was like so not okay that I didn't like where we were going for dinner. Like it was, you know, something as simple as like, well, I don't want to go to Taco Bell or whatever it was as a kid, and everybody else wanted that. And so I was really a bad for wanting something different, right? Or like annoying, or you're so difficult, you're so dramatic, right? And so I think like showing respect for that at a young age, you are helping your kids with everything we're talking about today. It starts right then when they're allowed to say no to you.
God, yes. I love that. Both my kids say my body, my choice when they don't want to eat something or they don't want to clean their rooms or they don't want to help me. They say my body, my choice. And I'm always like, touche, I did teach you that. So I guess you're okay with that then. I'll just, you know, yes, and I don't make them eat. I used to do that and now I do not, because you are right. They have to be able to stand up to their mom and dad at home to be able to stand up to the world, or a boy or a girl that tells them to do something they don't want to do. I think that's incredible to say. Thank you. Yeah.
With something Julianna said, so just also we have our Royals babies, and also you said that your kid has to alive, and mine did too. And I had a great life. I have a great sex life. I was successful in my career. I read a ton. I'm very emotionally intelligent and do a lot of therapy and pro drug. Nutrition could use some work. But despite all of that, there's just, I had a very dark day and I didn't want to hurt myself because it was one more thing I had to do. But my kids kept swag. And since then, you know, I had people I could reach out to, thank God. But everyone keeps asking me, are you happy? Are you happy? And I don't know how to answer that because I don't think that's my goals. And I don't think I'm below that. And I guess my question is like, I don't think that's the purpose of my life. And I want to teach my kids differently. So I would like to know your perspective on that. And how do we, you're called to actioning, how do we change that there?
Well, God, that's a big question.
Like you're saying that we're not, just to clarify, you're saying, is our purpose really to be happy?
Yeah,
Because
Yeah.
if that's the goal, then yeah, no, I'm not failing miserably.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's the goal. And I think that's what makes me feel so alone and so lost. Chasing after this goal that doesn't actually exist.
You're pursuing really fulfilling things from what I just heard,
Yeah.
which is amazing. And I don't think happiness is a goal, but I think when we do amazing things, we have epic moments of happiness.
Yeah.
I never really expect everything that.
Yeah, I'm definitely not happy all the time. No, there's like many moments in my day where I'm absolutely miserable and like trying not to cry and stuff. But I think sometimes we come off all the time as like happiness is the goal, but I really like the whole ride. I say this all the time. I love the entire roller coaster. I really enjoy the down moments. I really enjoy the breakups, the crying, the failures, because I know what's coming next is the really high moments. And I'm someone who likes to live in those places. I have a hard time when there's no sadness and no happiness. I like to feel a lot of things. So I don't think we have to be happy all the time, or the goal is to always be living in joy, because honestly, the society makes it really hard to be happy. I mean, it's kind of a grind, you know, you're kind of going from one thing to the next, and it keeps you so busy. How could you ever be still to even know if you're happy? Because I mean, you've got to get this to do that, to get to the groceries, to cook, to go back, and you got to get to bed and get back to work. Like, you know, it's hard to find the peace.
You just said it. I think what's interesting is that the people that I look at and look in their eyes and they have peace.
That is a huge, you can see it right in someone's eyes.
You can see it when they're at peace. They're not worried about they're not worried. They're comfortable, they're content, they're at peace. To me, that's the goal.
Yeah. And learning how to manage
Evolving.
It might be really interesting if you're speaking like specifically someone's asking you that, just to simply ask them what they mean by happy. Like to you, what do you mean by happy? You know, because they might mean, are you more alive? In which case, yeah, I'm more alive. I'm a thinking and feeling person and I'm seeing it all, you know. But I think what I love about your question and what I love about what you shared is that you're asking fundamental questions about language. And I think a lot of times when you reorient your life or you reimagine your life, we have to reconsider what language means to us. What does happiness mean to me? I can reimagine what that is. What does love mean to me? It used to mean telling you that you were living in sin because you were gay. Like that's what it used to mean to me, right? So like I had to reimagine love. I had to reimagine justice. And so what that has done for me in relationships to people that aren't thinking about the world in the same way that I am is that if my mom were to ask me, are you happier? I would just have to simply say, I need you to like give me some color, Mom, around like what you mean by that. Because I think that most people are good and kind, and they want to see you happy, and they want to see you filled, and they want to see you, all of those things. And so maybe just giving them an opportunity to express what they mean by that, and protecting yourself in your answer as well by answering it correctly, you know? Feeling like...
Yeah. I love the roller coaster.
A lot of other people uncomfortable. I think it makes the people around me uncomfortable. And that's what I'm like, how do I change that? Because I'm actually good with it.
Yeah, you really can't change other people's.
And you don't have to tell everybody everything either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You say how hard it is. You just say, oh, I'm fine, I'm good.
And also not needing other people's validation anymore. That's a really thing that you get to as you get older. As I used to want to please everybody. I wanted everybody to like me at all costs. I would change my personality to make this person like me, be like this for this person. And the older I get, not needing everyone to like me. And in fact, it's a kind of a burden if everyone likes you. You know, like, I mean, it is like, I'd rather have a narrow group of people like me and understand me than have to try to please every single person. And so then not needing the validation from everyone else on if you are happy or you're sad. You know, and giving yourself the grace to be sad and to be low for a minute and to grind, you know, to get through your trauma and to dive into it as opposed to go around it. So, does anybody else have any big questions? I know people want to get up and move around and eat and get acupuncture and get massages. I can't speak. Okay, anybody else? Any good ones? Does anybody want to make any closing things? Yeah.
When you talked about the story where like the day you decided to leave, your life was so ingrained, in this other life. Like what happened after you made that decision? And where did you find your support?
Oh, thank you for the question. What happened is that my life kind of exploded. I was very isolated for a very long time. A lot of people didn't really want to associate with me because there was scandal around the whole thing, right? But I had Betsy, I had Lindsay, and I had books. Honestly, like they really saved my life in that I was able to read that people have survived much more than I had, that people had gone through. And I'm having a hard time answering your question because I didn't have support. I just didn't. Yeah. I didn't have a family. I had my children. They kept me alive because they did keep me alive. I went through 2 years of very deep and dark depression, self-harm, gained 70 pounds, extremely suicidal, because I was alone. And I am so grateful for the people that were there to hold me at that time. But the support came later, after, here, right? Like I'm nervous because it's like you're bringing my new self into a space, in a place where everyone did like me, and then it felt like everyone hated me. It's like you become yourself.
Financial insecurity by making that decision? Was there any financial blowback, or were you able to financially take care of yourself?
I had worked,
okay,
thankfully, and so because of my career, I had the possibility of being able to leave and get an apartment on my own. So I was blessed in that respect. But I didn't really have support for many years. I didn't see my personal family for 6. They wouldn't speak to me, and so, a couple soldier friends, a few soldier friends.
Sometimes it just takes a couple, though. I would say I lost almost the majority of my close friends in my divorce. Money, my house. Really, I just had my kids and a couple friends left too. Yeah. But you gotta it just kind of put your money where your mouth is in a lot of ways too. Like, how bad do you want it? How bad do you want to find what you want to do? Yeah. And, align yourself within here. Are you willing to give a bunch of stuff up? And honestly, at the end of the day, it's like a snake skin you shed. You no longer need those things anymore, and you will find other support systems later on in life.
Yeah, and it was during COVID, and I actually was weirdly grateful for that time, as horrendous and traumatic as it was for the whole entire world, to know that we were all kind of alone. Mm-hmm. So there was this togetherness in our aloneness for me in that time as well. That was unique, but I think you're right. If you can imagine, art was very important to me during this time too. This kind of speaks to becoming oneself, seeing what you are drawn towards and who you want to become. Art can do that.
Yeah, or diving into your creativity, or diving into, you pick and choose what you're gonna dive into. My business was a big support for me. Honestly, getting up every single day and going to work and getting playing Taylor Swift for 30 minutes, dancing. Mm-hmm. You're gonna be okay. You're not gonna die today. You're gonna go to work. And by the end of the workday, everything's okay again. You know what I mean? And then the next day you gotta wake up and do it all over again. Right. But eventually you're okay, a soldier, your muscles are strong. I can do this.
And to also decide to not exchange one identity that's been so tethered so deeply to something, whether that be a marriage or a religion or something, don't exchange that one thing for another. Dare to sit in that liminal space where you don't know yet who you are. You are in a womb-like state. You have no idea who you're going to become. Dare to sit there. It's a very vulnerable, painful, isolated kind of moment of life, but sit there and don't just quickly, I'm no longer a Christian, I'm a witchy girl. I'm no longer married, I'm bisexual. Don't just exchange one thing for the next. Honor yourself enough to allow yourself to grow.
Yeah, sit in that cocoon for a minute before your wings come out.
Yeah.
You can do a lot of growing in there.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else? Any big ones?
Do you have a list of everybody who's sitting here?
I do, and I've got it on a post too, and I'll post about it on social media, and I will, I'll make some notes or something too.
Because I couldn't type fast enough on my list to get everything.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Thank you guys for sitting this long. And thanks to everybody for coming. Thanks to everybody for being really vulnerable and listening and sharing, and audience too.